today, because I'm here to tell you today, everybody had an experience with Christ. Everybody here today had an experience, and maybe it wasn't as dramatic as Paul's. Maybe it wasn't an emotional experience. Maybe God didn't come to you in a dream or a vision, but you're here today, and you're here because you know that Jesus Christ is Lord, and you've given your life to the Lord. Because we all have an experience. We start to come to church. We get excited. We start reading our Bibles. We start worshiping God. But then as time goes on, we start to forget about our experience. As time goes on and we go through the trials, we don't get into the Word anymore like we used to. We don't get deeper with God anymore. And I'm guilty of that too, I'll be honest with you. Some of us, we start to forget about our experience. But I'm here to tell you today, man, Paul had an experience, but you know what? Paul also had a past, and you had a past too. I had a past. And who are you before you gave your life to the Lord? Because I remember who I was. I was a sinner, man, on my way to hell. Who are you? But I'm here to tell you today, we're not here to dwell on our past today, man. Because you know why? God could use your past to reach out to others, and that's what he did with Paul. And that's why we're going to get into the book of Acts today, Acts chapter 9, and we're going to find out. Listen, man, our experience doesn't end there. Listen, man, some of us today, we probably feel stuck. We feel stuck. We experience Christ. We feel stuck. Well, we don't know what to do. What to do. We want to grow in Christ, but we don't know. We're going through a dry season right now. But you know what? Towards the end, I want to give you guys practical examples right now, man. What do you do after you experience? Yes, you had an experience. You gave your life to the Lord, but what do you do after you accept Jesus Christ? And this is what he writes about himself. Galatians 1:14. He says, I was advancing in Judaism beyond many of my contemporaries, his peers, among my countrymen, being more extremely zealous for my ancestral tradition. So Paul is speaking about his great success as a Pharisee, how he thrived more than his fellow Jews. What else can we find out about Paul? He's talking about he was successful as a Pharisee. Okay, so Philippians chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. He says, circumcised the 8th day of the stock of Israel of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of the Hebrews, concerning the law of Pharisee. Verse 6, as to the zeal, a persecutor of the church. As to righteousness, which is the law, found blameless. So Saul thought he was living a life pleasing to God. A Hebrew of the Hebrews, he says. As to the law of Pharisees, someone who thought he had the truth. Somebody who thought he was on the right path. Somebody who was zealous for the faith. And then he goes on to say, according to as to righteousness, which is to the law, found blame. So Paul is saying he found success in containing the law. So this is what we're finding out about Paul. What else can we find out about Paul? He's somebody who studied under a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a teacher of the law, held in respect by all people, according to Acts 22:3. So Paul developed a better understanding of the Hebrew scriptures. And I don't know if you guys remember Gamaliel in Acts chapter 5, when the apostles were going out, they were preaching the gospel, they're going in jail. And then Gamaliel said, man, listen, man, if this is of God, you're not going to be able to stop it. You're not going to be able to stop it. So, give them forth a little space, because if it's not of God, then it's going to come to nothing. And I'll be honest with you, maybe Paul should have took his advice, man. So we see right now, man, Paul was a religious man. He had a religious spirit. Someone who said, you know what, I was successful as a Pharisee. I was, he had pride. He said, like, I was doing more than my fellow Jews. Someone who said I was blameless under the law. This is what we find out about Paul. But there's so much more that we can find out about Paul. There's so much more.